All right, so we are here with the 22 Plus Nissan Frontier. This is the Pro4X. You guys have been asking and asking and asking for this one. We finally got one in, and we're finished up with the mock-up, and now we're going to do the install. We've got front splash guards, inner wheel well splash guards. We've got micros, mids, and full-size mud flaps. We've got rear gap fillers between the body and between the bed and the frame. We've got rear micros, mids, mud flaps, and we've got a front little mini mud flap that goes up in front of the wheel well and the rear as well. So we're going to go through that installation process super quick, pretty easy. We're going to switch over to the POV Ray-Bans here. We're going to walk you through it. So here we go. Okay, so we're here on the Nissan Pro4X, the 22 Plus model. We're going to start with the installation of the front splash guards. Nissan did a pretty good job at giving you kind of a full coverage liner here, but you can see there's some pretty big gaps here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and fill those gaps in with our splash guard. So the first thing that we're going to want to do here is you've got this little groove line here. You're going to want to bend that back pretty aggressively so that it looks a little something like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set this thing in. We're going to first by putting this area back here, kind of right in that area. And it sits on top of the frame. So you're going to set that in there. And then this guy up here, this hole, goes around the strut bracket tower. And you can see it kind of goes in there nicely. And it fits in there like so. Now, with this particular model here, and you can see here on this side, there are no holes. So what we got to do is we got to drill holes into your fender liner. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and mark these things with a paint pen so that we know where we need to go. So we're just going to go ahead and hit that right there in that area there. Push it back just a little bit further, right there. Right there. Okay, and then up top, we're gonna go there, there. And that hole is to connect the rear panel to the front panel. So let's go ahead and take this thing out. Now that we've got those areas marked. Okay, done deal there. Set that aside. What I like to do here is take a little drill bit before we jump over to the 5/16 and just give it a little pilot hole so the thing doesn't wobble around. Ooh, wobbling. How about we go the All right, so you just go in here and just kind of clean these things up just a little bit, just like with a little razor knife. Let these things to sit nice and flush. All right. Okay, so then we take our front splash guard again here. Take some 8mm rivets that are supplied. Go ahead and follow that same sequence again. Get that thing around that bolt. Get this thing behind that front fender liner. There you go. Get it behind that bolt. Okay, so now the holes line up as they should. And what we do is take 8mm rivets. And, sometimes that happens, so I give you a few extra. Okay, just go through. couple more. All right. So that is nice and in there. So that area is good and closed off. You can see here from the side with this panel kind of bent back there like we did at the very beginning. You see it really closes that area off nicely. All right, so then we're going to take the rear section here. And this section is going to go in a little something like that. But what we need to do first is we need to bend this thing. So you got this bottom line here. You're going to bend that towards you. And then on this top line, you're going to bend this away from you. That's going to give you a little angle like that. Okay. So what you're going to do is kind of set that in there like so. You can see how that sits in there. And we're going to follow the same sequence. We're going to grab an 8mm rivet first. We're just going to secure this thing to the first piece that we just installed, just so that it doesn't completely lose traction as we mark the inner fender liner with a paint pen. Okay, so down here with this bolt, we're going to take that one out. We're going to give you a fender washer as well to put over that. But now we're going to go through and we're going to mark these areas. So we're going to go here, here, there. And that is it. We can go in there as well. Okay. So now let's go ahead and grab our rivet puller. If you don't have a rivet puller, you could just use needle nose pliers as well. All right, we're going to set that off to the side. I'm going to get our drill bit out again. We're going to grab a little drill bit just to get some pilot holes in here. Now, please use caution on this side. So on this side, you can see back in there, you got a bunch of lines. So you really want to be careful while you're drilling in here. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and drill into this top hole up here. Use your fingers, kind of pull this thing back a little bit, give yourself a little extra clearance. Doesn't need to be a lot. Here, same thing. Give yourself a little clearance, pull this thing back. And then you got one more hole down here. Again, you're going to want to pull this thing back, get it away from those lines. Okay, now let's go a bigger drill bit. This is the 5/16. Okay, now let's go in here. Again, just like the front, doesn't take a lot. Just going to pull it in. Just make sure it's nice and clean. We'll go through and clean them up. See how that thing just pulls it in. So you really want to make sure you're pulling this fender back to make sure you're not hitting those lines. Okay, and then down here. Okay, just clean that out a little bit. Okay. Now what we're going to do is same thing as before. We're going to take just a razor straight edge here and just clean these things up so they sit nice and flat. Okay. Okay. Sure you're moving this razor knife away. Okay, so now we're going to go and remove this bolt. That is a 10mm. I'm going to grab our 10mm here. Okay, very good. I'm going to grab a fender washer. Supplied fender washer. It's going to go on just like that. All right, so let's go ahead and grab the part that we just bent, the rear section here. Let's set that aside for now. There we go. Let's put that up into position. Let's start same sequence as we did to mark the holes. So we're going to go ahead and pop that thing like so. And what we can do is we can go down here with the bolt and the fender washer, just finger tighten that guy. Okay. Now we're going to grab 3 more 8mm rivets. Get your finger back there and make sure you're getting it nice and snug. There you go. Okay. Oops. All right, let's get this guy. That's good. Okay. All right, 2 more steps. I'm going to take the 10mm here, tighten this bolt down. Okay, nice and tight there. All right, so now you can see this bolt up here is the last thing that we need, and we are going to supply you with a 3/4 inch bolt, a fender washer, and with our fender washer we have, it's a 4mm Allen head here, so we're just going to go and put that in there nice and tight, and that secures it up. All right, now that is the install of your front splash guard for the 2022 plus Nissan Frontier Pro4X. Going to follow the same sequence on the other side, very similar to this one. Bend sequence is the exact same, and we're going to move on to the micros and the mids and the mud flaps and the rear of the vehicle here in a second. All right, so now we're on the rear of the Nissan 2022 Plus Pro4X Frontier, and what we're going to be doing is installing a rear gap filler here to cover up this gap between the bed and the frame. This is super simple to do. You can see here just by the look of the panel itself, the big circle area is going to be towards the rear of the vehicle. The Ark logo is going to be towards the cab of the vehicle. Now you've got, and it's also got a D for driver. So then you've got these lines here, and what you're gonna do is just bend this thing back ever so gently there, and then on the top, you're gonna bend this top section back just a little bit. And then same with this guy here, we're gonna bend this side back. And what that does is it creates some tension between where the panel is going and the rivets that are going in, and this thing's got some really good memory, so it's gonna continue to hold its bend there. And what we're gonna do is just set this thing in there. This piece goes up behind this bracket there, and just like that, you can see it's pretty much in. So then what we do is we grab 4 6.5mm Christmas trees, and we go ahead and just slam them in these holes here. Done. Boom. One more. Oh, let's get that back there. There you go. Lift this thing up. Doesn't get much easier than that. That is the install of the rear splash guard gap filler there on the 2022 Plus Nissan Frontier. Same sequence of events on the passenger side as the driver's side. Please let me know if you got any questions. We'll move on to the micros here. Thanks, bye. All right, so we also have a front splash guard here, kind of a micro for the front of the rear fender here. You can see we've got this OEM little mini mud flap there. We've got something similar now for the front. And this thing's 3 bolts, super simple to install. So the quick way to identify this is it looks a little something like this, and then you've got this groove line here which you bend back to cover some of the area back here where this thing is a little deficient. You're also going to be given this tab. This tab goes into that hole so that it connects in underneath the body here, and we're going to walk through that sequence here in a second. The logo on this one, to quickly identify the driver's side and the passenger side, they will be marked D and P. The logo on this one faces towards the rear of the vehicle, or towards the front of the vehicle, I apologize. And we're going to go through and just take these bolts out and do a quick install. So first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and remove the OEM flap here. Three bolts. 2 Phillips head bolts. You're going to want to hold on to those. And then we've got a 10 millimeter up here, up on top. Okay. We're going to chuck that. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and identify our driver side micro. In our driver side micro, the logo is going to be facing towards the cab, right? And then you have this groove line coming down, and that's going to set right in there like so. So you're going to want to bend this thing back just a bit, maybe about that far. Put it back up. You can see here how it kind of nests in there and kind of blocks that area off. So the first thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and install the OEM, at least one of the OEM screws. These are nice flathead screws, so we're going to go ahead and reuse that. Okay, it just goes in there like, let's get it going the right way. All right, so this thing is adjustable depending on your offset. Let me get my light down there so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. There you go. Okay, so it is adjustable, so we don't need it too tight. Okay, see how that works there. Then we're going to switch over to our 4 millimeter Allen key here. We're going to supply you guys with a longer M6 bolt here with a fender washer. That's going to go in the top. That bolt will look a little bit better when you guys get it. Been reusing that one quite a bit today. So you can see here how this thing is adjustable, right? So it kind of goes in, kind of goes out. Really nice. So then you're going to have this tab, and this tab goes into this hole down here. It secures in like that. Then we're going to take our OEM Phillips head. Where's it dropping? You can see down here how this looks. Get that light up there. There you go. And then we're just going to go ahead and screw that in. Okay. Not too tight. Okay. And that is it. All right. And that is the install of the front micro on the rear fender of the Nissan Pro4X. You're going to want to follow that same sequence of events on the passenger side. All right, so now we're on the front of the Pro4X, and we're going to be installing our micros. We've already got the front mud flap removed here. You're going to want to hold on to those two screws there. The front micro, the logo is always going to be facing towards the rear. Looks a little something like that. It will be marked passenger front, driver front, and it goes into those 2 locations. So it's about as easy as it gets. So we take the Phillips head here. They are adjustable. Got a light so you guys can see. There you go. Again, logo faces towards the rear of the vehicle. We're gonna go ahead and put that thing right there. Not too tight. There's the other one. Okay. You can see here that this thing, let me move this tire. You see it's adjustable, good amount there, depending on the offset that you have. You want it nice and small, you can do that. You want it a little bit more aggressive, you can have it out. We're gonna have it right about in the middle for the purposes here of the video. I'm gonna push that back. All right, let's go ahead and tighten that down. All right, and that is the installation of your front micro on the 2022 Plus Nissan Frontier Pro4X. You're going to follow that same sequence on the driver's side as you just did on the passenger side. All right, so now we're going to be installing the rear micro on the Pro4X here. This guy looks very similar to the Mudflap. Goes into that location there. We're going to be bending this thing back into that mounting location. This thing is super easy to install. Once you got your Mudflap off, if you have one, go ahead and remove your OEM screws. Make sure you hold on to those. We're going to be reusing them. Quick way to identify this guy is the rear is going to be marked passenger rear. It's going to be driver rear on the other side of the vehicle. The installation sequence is the same. We got a couple of bends here that we need to do. So the first one, we're going to go ahead and bend this one towards us. This is the top. And then that second line here, we're going to go ahead and bend that back. So we're going to have two rather aggressive bends. It's almost like zit, zit, zit. And then we're going to go ahead and just put that in there. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is take our Phillips head here. We're going to take our OEM screws. And these things are adjustable, so we want to make sure that we don't over tighten. Okay, just like that. All right, so then what we're going to do is take we're going to take this supplied 3/4 inch bolt fender washer. That's going to go through this hole down here. Like I mentioned in the previous video, you may need to hog this hole out. It's been oversprayed here by the factory. And then we're going to take another fender washer and a lock nut. You can see it's popping through there. So we're just going to finger tighten that. Okay. I'm going to take a 4mm Allen head and our 11mm. Then we're going to want to go through here and just make sure this thing is where we want it. This is obviously a prototype. Yours will not have a scratch in it, sorry. So you can adjust this thing in and out depending on the offset. It gives it a little flare to the vehicle there. We're going to keep this thing all the way in for the purposes of this vehicle. Let's go ahead and take the 11mm, put it around that lock nut. Go ahead with the 4mm. Let's go ahead and tighten that thing down. Done. Get back to the Phillips head here. Tighten that thing down, and that is installed. All right, that is the install of your rear micro on the Nissan Pro4X. You're gonna, like I said at the beginning, you're gonna follow that same sequence on both the passenger and the driver side. Okay, so now we're on the front of the Pro4X, and we're going to be installing the front mud flaps here. Quick way to identify the front: you're going to have like a passenger front or a driver front. That's going to be a quick way to identify passenger driver. So one of the things that we're also going to do here is we do have a couple bends here. So you got this bloodline here that's going to go back towards us. Okay, like that. And then this guy's going to go back quite a bit. All right, so that just hits right in there. You can see how this ultimately goes into that position there. All right, so if you do have the OEM mud flaps, go ahead and take those off. Keep those bolts there. You're going to want to hold on to those. And then back in here, there's a mounting location that we're going to utilize. So the first thing we're going to do is take the OEM bolts. We got those right here. Drop them both. All right. These are Phillips. Going the wrong way. All right. All right, you're just going to want to get it started there. Got another one right here. There you go. Helps if you jack the vehicle up. Okay. All right, so there we go. We got that there. Then what we're going to do is grab our tab. This will be marked. You're going to go ahead and put that in there like so. And that gets up into under here. So what we have there is we have a long coarse screw, a fender washer, and a 5/8 spacer. So let's go ahead and get that finger tight into position there. Okay. I'm going to grab a 10mm socket. And not too tight. All right, not too tight, looking good. We still have some adjustability there. Now we got to go into this hole up top, right there. And with that, we have a supplied 3/4 inch bolt. This is a 4mm hex head and a two fender washers. One's going to go on the front, one's going to go on the rear, and a lock nut. So let's put that up there. Let's go ahead and put that through that hole like so. Okay, and underneath the body, might be tough to see, but you can see it's coming through right there. We just finger tighten the lock nut on there. All right. Let's grab our 4mm Allen and an 11mm box. Okay, looking good there. Now let's go through and tighten all these things up. There, go back to the 10mm. Press on that, make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, looking good. And that is the install of the front full-size mud flap on the Pro4X. You're going to follow that same installation sequence if you order the full size or the mid mud flap. The mid mud flap is half the size of the full size. And you're going to follow that same sequence for the driver and the passenger sides. Okay, so you can quickly identify the mudflap being passenger or driver. It's going to be marked PR. This is passenger rear. Driver will be DR, driver rear. Front will be passenger front, driver front. So you quickly identify which one is which. In this case, the logo is always going to be facing towards the rear. It's going to be going in something like that. These things are adjustable, so we'll get there in a minute. But first we need to go and take off the OEM mud flap if you have OEM mud flaps. And we're going to do that just by quickly removing these screws. Again, Phillips head, let's make sure this thing's going the right direction. Okay, and then you've got another one down here, which we've already got removed. So we're going to go ahead and just take that off, put that off to the side. All right, we're going to keep those screws there. And you can see here, got our working surface there. So now let's go ahead and grab our passenger rear full-size mud flap. And the first thing we're going to do is bend these flaps. So you got these grooves here. The one that's on the bottom, you're going to bend pretty aggressively down, almost at 90. And then this guy here, you're going to bend up right on that line. Okay. So when you're all said and done, it's going to look a little like that. Okay, and that's going to go into that hole right there. Now, one of the things that we noticed on the Nissans, this thing is heavily sprayed down, so there is a hole there. You might need to clear it out with a screw or just something to just hog that thing out a little bit, but there is a mounting point there. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and grab our OEM screws again. I'm going to put that in the top. Okay, not too tight. These are adjustable. Okay, one more down here. Okay, so you can see how that kind of plays around there. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install this tab, and this tab's going to be marked. I'm going to go ahead and put that thing in there like so. All right. Now we supply you with a longer M6 with a fender washer and a 5/8 spacer. You can see how that tab comes out of the mud flap and it's going to go into that hole up there. So we're going to put our 5/8 fender wash or our 5/8 spacer in there along with our supplied bolt, and we're going to go ahead and just finger tighten that thing. This thing is a little problematic. Sometimes we've noticed that you're going through fender, you're going through body panels, so sometimes this thing can get a little tricky. Then you're going to grab your 4mm Allen head here. All right, not too tight. We want to be able to adjust this thing a little bit. So depending on your offset, you can move this thing in and out. This thing bends down. So let's make sure we get this thing where we want it. Okay, that looks good. Let's go ahead and tighten this thing down here. So we already got the Allen head on there. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Swap back over to our Phillips head. Doesn't need to be too tight. There you go. All right, so then we have a 3/4 inch. We've got a 3/4 inch bolt here that we're going to supply you with a lock nut and 2 fender washers. We're going to take the first fender washer and the bolt. That's going to go in that hole there. So you might need to bend this thing down to get it into the hole. There you go. But once it's there, good. Like I said, you may need to hog that thing out a little bit. Okay, and that just really hogs that out. And then what we do is we take a fender washer and our lock nut, we kind of go in behind it. And we're going to want to finger tighten that guy. You can see how that thing comes out right there. Okay. All right. Lock nut on the back of that bolt. We got an 11mm wrench there. We got a 4mm over here. Let's go ahead and just tighten this thing down. All right. And that is the install of your full-size mud flap on the Pro4X. Like I said at the beginning of the video here, you're going to follow the same installation sequence on both the driver and the passenger side. And it's the same installation sequence for the full-size mud flaps and our mid-size mud flaps.